We have a great day ahead of us. We're going to talk about engagement in your church. And so this is one of the best opportunities that we love, just to take this time to get to hear, connect, sharing strategies and thoughts.
Absolutely. And welcome, guys. Welcome back. To the last time we got to see you was right before Christmas. We did another webinar. Jason and I were talking about some end of year best practices for your church. And you might see a different set, a different look here in the studio. Where we have an incredible team on our production team with an amazing staff that has helped to put this together, and we're extremely grateful. And this is the first session that we get to host from this new studio.
First of many.
Yeah, first of many. And so without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. Again, thank you guys so much. My name is John. This is Jason. We serve here on the customer success team at Pushpay in a few various different roles. And today's topic, we're going to be leaning into, it's a new year, new people. How are you elevating your church's engagement strategy? And so we spent some time with a great executive pastor from a church that we're going to get to learn here in just a few moments. But we are excited to be connecting with you this day. And I just want to run through our agenda of how we're going to just kind of break down our discussion. So we have a interview that we spent some time with Pastor Shane McCroskey from Timberlake Church. They are a great church of ours that not only just customers, but partners. You know, we've been partnering with Timberlake for a while. And so we're going to spend some time with Pastor Shane. Again, he is their executive pastor at the church. And, you know, again, we've just had this partnership with Timberlake for a long time, and we're very excited for our discussion today.
It's one thing to talk about engagement strategies and say, here's 5 points, here's things that you should do. But one of the things that we love is getting to empower people firsthand, saying, hey, hear from somebody who's been doing it for decades, doing a great job, and releasing more churches that they can just do what God has called you to do. So we're excited to be a part of that. We also have some upcoming features. Our product and engineering team has been working quickly, busy, and we have some really exciting features that we want to share with you that are being released, that have been released and are about to be released.
Yes, so lean into that as well. And then we're going to spend some time towards the later half of our session today answering some live Q&A from you that are joining. And so while we are in this chat, in this discussion, if a question arises where Jason and I can break this down, maybe help you as well with your engagement strategy at your church, we would love to partner with you actually live right here on our call today for that. So sit back, relax, maybe grab some coffee, some water, maybe it's lunchtime where you're at, and lean into this discussion here. So as we kick things off, we want to learn a little bit more about Pastor Shane, maybe his journey into serving there at Timberlake. Check it out.
Shane, before we even dive into strategies, we'd love to hear a bit of your journey with Timberlake and what that journey's been like, and even the way that Pastor Ben led. And there's been such an incredible part of helping bring in and release more pastors and leaders in churches. And so we'd just love for you to share what that looks like and what that journey's been.
Yeah, that's awesome. I joined the team here at Timberlake 11 years ago, and my son had just been born, so we had a newborn, and we got invited to come and interview and check out the church, actually for a campus pastor role. And so my wife and I came in with our newborn, never been here before, and we were just struck by just how welcome and like warm we felt. This sweet old lady showed us where the parent viewing room was so our baby wouldn't disrupt everybody. And people came up and talked to us. And, we just felt like this was a place where we could invite a friend who didn't know Jesus. And for us, that was like a really important thing in a church. It's just that we'd feel comfortable inviting somebody. And so, I joined the team 11 years ago. I was a campus pastor for about a year and a half before I transitioned to our central team as executive pastor. And then for the last, 8-9 years, I've just had the opportunity to serve as the EP. And my role is mostly just to lead the staff and develop teams and systems. So.
Okay, so tell us, leading a staff, that's not just a little thing, but that is leading the people that lead people is quite a process, especially over 11 years. That includes a huge chunk with COVID. And break that down a little bit of what that's looked like and what that's meant for you all and helping lead leaders.
We had a lead pastor who was with us for about 15 years, just transitioned about a year ago, and then a new pastor who just came in. And so my job has just been to say, okay, what's the vision? And then how do I build the teams and systems to help implement that? And we've been really blessed to have just some really talented people, department leads, staff. And, I think everything is a season. And God brings people with you for a season. No one's, usually works at a church for their whole life. Sometimes that happens, and that's really cool. But, how do we steward the team in a way that is beneficial to Timberlake and this congregation, but also to the person and their career and their family and their future? Yeah. And so we haven't always done it right. But we've been really committed over the last decade to moving towards healthy teams. And that's kind of, there's always drama and there's always ups and downs, both internally, externally. Obviously, COVID was just a huge curveball. But we just always have said, like, how do we make sure just we're moving towards health? I think is maybe a better metric to say than like, are we healthy? Because it's always kind of like, well, there's good things, there's bad things, but what's our trajectory and what are we moving towards?
What like in moving towards health, what would you define? Hey, we see this as healthy. We see this as moving in the right direction. What are like metrics or signposts or things that you're like, no, we know that the ball's moving down the field?
Yeah, good question. I think we track everything. So for us, both like with our congregation and with our staff, I think what we look at health for the church, I think is also a reflective of health with the staff.
Yeah.
And so with the church, obviously we're looking at engagement stats in terms of giving, volunteering, attendance, people inviting their friends, all that kind of stuff, group attendance, all of that. And then for the staff, we'll look at retention rates. And so how our staff transitioning. We'll do check-ins throughout the year, both with our annual review and mid-year, where we'll do surveys with our staff just to see like how they're doing and what's going on, get feedback from them. And then we'll do more frequent ones with our team leads and managers. And so we're looking at transitions. And so what's our retention rate on staff? We're looking at just general staff morale. We put a lot of our effort and energy into staff development, and we do a lot of that internally. We have something called development track that staff can opt into that we do throughout the year, where they can learn and grow. We do an annual staff retreat. We do a monthly staff chapel. We do mentoring where newer staff can sign up for. And so we do a lot of things just to try to do that. Obviously, health, it's subjective, you know? And so some of it is like, is my body healthy? Like there's some stats I can look at I can go to the doctor and check my blood pressure and some of that. And then some of it's just like, how do I feel? Like, and how do people that are around me feel? And so it's probably a combination of some numbers we track and things that we intentionally do. And then just a sense of like, how does it feel to be on the team here?
That happiness ratio, like, are people having fun? Are they enjoying life?
One of the best questions, actually, I think Chris Heaslip, who used to be with Pushpay, he attended Timberlake and was a friend of mine. And, he said that he would ask the question, like, would you recommend a friend to come and work here?
Yeah.
And I think that's like a great question that, because that really gets to the heart of it. Like, because you may want to stay for lots of different reasons at a job, but like, would you recommend a close friend to come and work here? And I think that's like just a great question to get to the heart of a staff culture.
Yeah, that's great. You were kind of mentioning things of like things were shifting around COVID. Obviously, lots of churches had to change engagement strategies overall. How did that affect things at Timberlake, and did it change and how you're even like facilitating engagement at church?
Yeah, COVID was a crazy season, obviously for everybody, churches, businesses, families. And so we had to pivot really quickly and just say, okay, what does it look like today? And there was a lot of things that we did around engagement. So we immediately, everything got shut down here. We weren't allowed to do in-person services for months. And so we bought a giant outdoor LED screen and like a radio hookup, and we did drive-in church in our parking lot. People would drive in, they'd get like popcorn and snacks, and
I
then they
love it.
would watch the service. We'd record it during the week for that, and then finally we were allowed to do in person, but then people still didn't feel comfortable coming in the building, and so we went from a few thousand people coming into our building to a few hundred people coming into our building. And so we actually did indoor and outdoor
Wow.
church in that season, and we ramped up our creative team, and so we hired more videographers and all of that, and we would record a service during the week that we would show on our outdoor venue, and then we would do live in-person services. We made these boxes, like Christmas at home and Easter at home boxes, and we had our staff drive and physically deliver them
Wow.
to a couple thousand people's homes. And yeah, so we did a lot of things that were just like personal and
Yeah.
to try to connect with people in that.
Hold on, I want to pause you on this because that's a pretty wild and incredible thing that you all have done.
Yeah,
And I can
very cool.
imagine that that's also shifted now, even as things have changed. But now it's like, hey, we engage on a very deeply personal, one-on-one connection. I don't want you to like. That's a big thing that you all did. That's
Yeah.
like, it's cool to hear that. I would love to even hear a little bit more about how has that shifted how you engage with people now.
Yeah, I think, some of the strategies have changed, but like the philosophy has stayed the same in terms of, during COVID, we did what we could do. And so we couldn't gather people in our building. So we gathered them in our parking lot. We couldn't,
Mm.
physically. So we would go and deliver things to their homes and connect with them because, you know, the contrast between like content and community, and like connection and stuff. I think what everybody realized in COVID is like it gave people permission not to go to church. And we're in the Pacific Northwest. And so there's not like a cultural, like Sunday, everyone goes to church
Right.
vibe here, where there is maybe in other parts of the country. But I think there was still a little bit of that, like I'm a Christian, I should, if I am a Christian, maybe I should, and at
Right.
least a couple times a month. So that's when we would drive to people's houses, we would call them, we would try to find ways to create community. And so post COVID, like now, we try to do both. And so we have like large format stuff where like we do Sunday church and we have a lot of people that come and gather. But we have a really strong emphasis on groups and both like small groups, outreach groups, missions trips. We most of our staff, like their primary role is not to do anything, but it's to mobilize volunteers
That's cool.
and like care for people. And so their job is to just say, okay, how do I like invest in a group of people that are then investing in a group of people? And so yeah, we've still maintained that sort of like retail kind of vibe in even now that we're back to mostly normal,
Yeah.
operations. So
So good. That's
That's
awesome.
great.
Especially during difficult times like in COVID,
Right.
right? We have to get creative,
Yeah.
and how we're just facilitating engagement overall. I want to throw a poll question out your way, guys. Let me launch this here for you. Do you have an engagement strategy at your church? So does your church have an engagement strategy that you facilitate at church? While the poll is going and getting some participation, we've already had a few questions come through the Q&A. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
using that. We're gonna spend some time later on breaking down some of our Q&A live on our call today. So feel free to keep asking those questions, and thank you so much for participating. All right, we have about 71% participated. Most of you do have an engagement strategy. That is great to see.
I love the not sure, which is
Yes.
great. This is why you're here, like that we
Yeah.
can talk some more, and hopefully beyond just being part of a webinar is actually joining in with us, connecting with
Absolutely.
one of your CSMs
Yes.
and helping create that strategy with you.
That's right. I'm going to stop the poll there. Thank you again for participating. Let me share these results out to you. So you should be able to see that in your Zoom. 60% do have a strategy, 24% do not. And then also, I guess within that same thread, 16% maybe not sure how. And then just like Jason mentioned, you're in the right place. We're going to continue breaking some of that down, especially with Pastor Shane. So one of the questions that we had asked, just one other just quick reminder. We will also be re-releasing an unedited version, like the full playthrough from start to finish with our discussion with Pastor Shane on Pushpay University. So I just wanted to just make mention of that real quick. But one of the questions that we had asked him was, it's really important to find ways to drive this, to have community, connection, things that are on mission with your church. Check out what Pastor Shane has to say about that.
Yeah, I'd say for us, I mean, community is kind of everything. Again, like I said, content you can get anywhere, but I think what we can offer is that faith community and a safe place for you to grow in your faith, invite your friends, and build that community. And so for us, we do it through a few different things. Spaces is really important to us, and so in our lobby we have snacks, we have food, we have drinks. We try to create an environment that's like warm between services and after church, where people can just come and spend some time trying to meet people. We do a lot of our engagement digitally through groups. So we have online groups. And we have in-person groups. And we have groups that meet in coffee shops and homes, and we have groups that meet in our church. And so what we found is like we have a moms group that meets in the church that comes here, and then we have a moms group that meets online because they're busy and it's easier to meet after they put their kids to bed once a month or once a week. And so we focus on trying to have something for anybody at any stage, any availability. So we have groups that meet weekly, groups that meet monthly. We put so much pressure on these are going to be your best friends who you share like all your intimate things with, and you just met them, and you got to go deep. And it's like, I don't want that. It's the same thing with volunteering. Like we say, if you join a volunteer team, you can quit at any time with no guilt, and no staff member is ever allowed to make you feel guilty about quitting a volunteer team. We don't want someone to sign up to help on a kids team, and then they're like, I don't even like my own kids, let alone these kids, but they feel guilty, and then they feel like to leave the volunteer team, I have to leave the church. And so we're like, you have permission to quit a group, permission to quit a volunteer team at any time. Find a different one. Find one that fits you. And people kind of like that.
I love that. Because the fact of giving people permission and the fact that you're stating it, hey, this is okay and we will not do this, is huge, because it's amazing how much, we've all been there, where you just feel a little bit of that compulsion and you're like, I don't know, and I don't even know how to have the conversation.
Yeah.
But I think because of that, one of the things that you all are known for and that I've seen is just healthy volunteers. Mm-hmm. And you have people that want to be there. And it sounds like that's a key part of making people want to stay connected and going there. I have one question in some of that. How have you approached? It sounds like you guys have a free market, but has there been any specific strategy with online groups? And what is that? How has that changed? How do you approach that?
Yeah, so we sort of let people pick. So when we do a semester-based system, and so our winter groups just launched this week. Okay. And so we try to look at the rhythm of the calendar and say, okay, we want to give people a good month of signups before engagement. And so post-Christmas, we want to give people the entire month of January when they're coming to then pick a group that then starts in February. And so for us, they just kicked off. And during our pre-session, so the month before group signups happen, that's where our groups team is going out and checking in with all the current groups, finding out who wants to continue, and then reaching out to new group leaders and saying, okay, can we launch? We're pretty strategic in looking at the types of groups that we have and making sure we have something available for everyone. And so we'll specifically target like, okay, we need an empty nesters group, or we need something just for men, or we need something for young families, or we need, something online for this category. And then we'll kind of target, ask some people, hey, would you be open to launching this or co-leading this for that? And then we try to let people pick, like, you want to lead an online group? Cool, lead an online group. And so we do both, like open, like, hey, if you want to lead a group, let us know, as well as like targeted asks, like, hey, you've been in this group, would you be interested in leading your own? And so we have a mix of online groups and in-person groups. And we think the online groups are great, and they provide people that have different, sometimes it's people who live in different parts of the country. Sometimes it's just people, because of their schedule and availability, they can jump on and bring community. And I think one of the important things for us is not making things feel less than other things. And so it's not like, hey, if you can't do one of our in-person groups, you could do online. It's not as good, but like, and even with our online church, we try to do the same thing. Like, we try to speak directly to people joining us online versus like them just feeling like an afterthought or like they're missing out.
I love this, and I love what he's talking about. Yeah. Just this, what you celebrate, you actually replicate.
Yes.
And so I love just even this permission to join, permission to quit. This part where you're like, there's so many parts in culture, even within church or groups. You're like, yes, you can quit, but I wish you wouldn't. And people feel that. But I love this. Any stage, wherever you're at, there's something that they set up to offer, and it makes it just a really easy for people to come in and find place. And it's amazing that how when people feel comfortable, they can find home, they can trust, they can open their hearts up. And I love just what he's talking about in this place. And it's so valuable. Like, I've been a part of leading hundreds of groups, some of them great, some of them not so great. So just to hear firsthand of how do you create that healthy culture. And one of the questions I have is like, how do you create that health for groups and to keep them moving forward? Because we all have different groups that stay healthy and continue to grow and thrive in the church, and other ones that don't keep the health going. And how do you keep doing this year after year and keep that culture going? So here's some of his thoughts on healthy groups.
There's always there's some groups that fail to launch. And we always try to do a postmortem on those of like, okay, what happened? And usually when somebody says, hey, I want to do a group, we'll try to, either they have a few people that have said, hey, we want to do it with you, or we'll try to push. So even though we'll have 100 different groups available, we'll have a couple that we'll highlight and that we're like, hey, they need some people. And then we have others that they're full, they don't need people, and so we're not going to highlight them both digitally or in the lobby, like displays and that kind of stuff. And then we try to check in with group leaders and just, is there any problems? Is there any people that are causing problems? And then that's where, like, we obviously want to empower our volunteer group leaders to deal with their own problems, but that's where staff will step in if there's an issue, in a group, or it's going sideways or something. If there's a person that's causing problems in a group, like then a staff member would connect with them. And again, we just have that kind of authentic vibe where like, if you don't like a group, quit the group. If somebody's weird in the group, call them out, or we'll call them out. Or, if it's, and again, we have semesters. So groups always start and stop. And then if they want to continue, they can. But the start and stop gives a chance for a group that, didn't go well to just kind of like, hey, we're going to do something different this next time. And so sometimes we thought groups would take off and nobody was really that interested. And then there's other groups that you're like, I don't think anyone is going to be interested in this. And then all of a sudden, like, people love it. So.
Yeah. Sometimes groups, health, group culture, it's a hit or miss, right? Like, You never
I
know.
love that. He's like, call out the weird people. He's like, come on, we've all been in the group where you're like, everyone, it's good. Call out, state the obvious so that we keep things healthy moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, aside from groups and facilitating these moments, having like options for engagement like this at church communities, you got to be able to track this somewhere. You got to be able to use your software, use technology in order to like do that, right?
Hopefully you're using Pushpay, which is why you're
great
here.
call out. Thank you. Yeah.
Trying to learn how to use our products a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully you're using Pushpay Giving, Pushpay CHMS, or the Pushpay app. Maybe you might be a church Insights, Parish Stack customer. Oh my goodness, there's
got it all.
much. So obviously with Timberlake being a partner church of ours for a while, they've been, leveraging some of this technology at their church. And so let's hear from Pastor Shane how they are kind of using that to facilitate these opportunities at their church.
Yeah, so we try to track like everything, and so we use obviously Pushpay, and then we use Church Community Builder as our database, and so that allows us to track people, and we try to collect as much data as we can. Primarily kids check-in, groups, volunteer teams, giving is where we'll collect the data and then be able to do targeted marketing. And so if we're like, we have a parenting class, like one-off. And so again, some of our groups meet weekly, some of them meet monthly, some of them we do one-off opportunities. So like we have a parenting one-off like kind of seminar thing that's coming up next week. And in that, there'll be a couple hundred parents that'll gather around tables. And then from there, we will advertise like ongoing parenting groups that they could jump into. But for some people, it's just one-offs. But for that kind of stuff, like we'll target. So we'll do target advertising, whether it's emails or phone calls, using the information that we've collected in our database to say, okay, this age group or this demographic, or, they have kids in elementary or whatever.
It's great. I just want to remind people that one of the best parts of even partnering with Pushpay is this is what we love to do, to partner with you, to work through your strategy for your church. And if you don't know that, you do have someone you can reach out to who literally will go with you and help you customize and realize that you're not in this alone. Yeah. And it's the beauty of getting to be on the church side as well as from the Pushpay. We love to partner with you. So please set up a time. Talk with your customer success manager. We have lots of different resources and can even just bounce things off to get that idea and just whatever it is so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can pull in other churches and people to help in that process. So do not miss that opportunity. That's a shameless plug, but that's what we love to do. It's one of the things that we love most.
Great plug.
One of the big questions that I had even for Pastor Shane is how do you continue to get people to serve? And they have a large amount of people serving, a large percentage of the people that are part of Timberlake that actually serve. And I've been there where you're like, church is growing and thriving, but how do you continue to create a culture where the growth of volunteers and volunteerism is just the very heart and spirit of what people want to do? So check out some of his thoughts on this.
To say, like, we have a really strong focus on evangelism. Like, one of our top core values is we say we're committed to the uncommitted. And so everything we filter, like everything we do is like being a safe place for somebody to invite a friend that doesn't know Jesus. And that if somebody comes in that doesn't have a church background, which in the Pacific Northwest, we have people who come and they've never been to a Christian church before. And that's common here. And we want them to, one, not feel stupid. That we're doing things that they just don't understand. And so trying to make it like where we explain things and just are very authentic. And then also that we have a clear discipleship pathway. And so for us, our discipleship pathway, we just call it next right steps, is we just believe that everybody has a next right step and pick yours. And so throughout every single weekend, when we're talking about a message, we're going to say like, hey, maybe there's a next step that you would have from this. And so we'll do that. So we have stuff weekly, monthly, annually that we'll do to engage people. Weekly, we have a Connect card. We have a physical version that's available. We have a QR code on the back of the seat in front of people, and then we have a Connect Center in the lobby. And then for online, there's a link that they can click. And so there's lots of ways to fill that out, and that's just an opportunity to get more involved. Whether you have a question, you want to sign up for baptism, you want to join a group, so that's always available every single week. We push it through our sermons, we push it through our hosting, we push it through our lobby if like meeting a new person. And then we do, we call it Discover Timberlake, and we do it every other month. And it's after a service, it's an hour. You get to hear a little bit of the behind the scenes. We explain our ministry, what we do, why we do, a little bit of our polity and governance, all that kind of stuff. And then the culmination is next steps.
That's a picture right into what's happening at Timberlake every single week. And I love that because it does take some time to build into creating that culture. Laura asked a great question. Actually, it was James asked a great question saying, like, hey, this is a really good perspective for a big church, but where do you start? And I think that starting point really matters.
Yes.
That creating a culture of healthy volunteers and engagement doesn't matter whether you're 70 or 700 or 7,000.
Yeah,
it really is a culture that when you start with this place of giving is not just giving of your money. It's giving your time, your talents, your treasures.
Yes.
And that we have freely received, so to freely give is a part of what we do. And actually, in a community of 70 is one of the best, most beautiful place that hopefully you start seeing people that it's just the overflow of heart to see people volunteering, engaging, and that it can scale in such a bigger way that it's not about scalability, but it really is about a healthy, genuine culture. And the healthier the culture is at a smaller level, the greater you begin to see that multiplication take place.
That's right.
So one of the things that I am really emphatic about is somebody who's coming in for the very first time. How do you create that space that makes anybody feel welcome? Yeah, how are they getting plugged in? What do they look? What does it feel like to somebody when they're coming in for the first time, and really opening their life up to what God wants to speak to them? So here's some of Pastor Shane's thoughts. His thoughts on first time people coming in.
There's a culture that you are creating in the language that you use, in the intentionality that you have in what you celebrate. And so what I would say would be, if you wanted to, if I came into a church that just had a really low volunteer culture, I would say making sure that we're talking about it, and not from like a needs base, but from a celebration. So hopefully you have at least one volunteer, a couple volunteers, let's just celebrate them. I think modeling it as well. And so I think the best way for a pastor to get people to invite people to church is not to tell people to invite people to church, but to tell stories of people that they invited to church. Yeah. And so I think that there's like a culture in that. I would say make it fun. I would say even if you don't have enough people, never make people feel guilty for missing a week, for needing to go on vacation with their family, for wanting to take a break. I think, you have to think long term. And I think when you make people feel pressured and guilty and I need you to do multiple services, I need you to do every week because I don't have enough, like they'll do it for a season and then they'll leave. And so I think I would say to cut back on what you're doing to have the right number of volunteers so that even with what we're doing, it feels like we have extra volunteers and it feels fun. Early on, we would do announcement videos and we would always highlight a volunteer. So we'd have volunteers do those and they would always just say like, hi, my name's John. I serve in the kids team. Hi, I'm Samantha and I'm one of the front door greeters. Welcome to Timberlake. And so we just try to get it in front of people. And so even when maybe we didn't have a ton of volunteers, it felt like we did. And you're like, oh, that's cool. People
that. Yeah.
And so you just want to like create the culture, even maybe if it's not real yet, that like, oh, people volunteer here. That's just what they do. And they're like, yeah, of course people volunteer here. You want to volunteer here too, right? And so I just would say like,
you want to volunteer? Hey, can you lead that?
yeah, this is fun. And so Yeah, I just would focus on the culture and like, what does it feel like? What does it feel like if you're a volunteer? And what does it feel like if you want to join a volunteer team? And I think the feeling is probably more important than focusing on, like pressuring people or convincing people or begging people or guilting people or scripturing people into that. It's not the need for most people that's going to compel them. It's the culture that will. So.
Man, so good. To have like culture carriers at church or at your, organization, being able to just run with the mission with you is extremely important. And it doesn't matter the size, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Like as mentioned earlier, you can be a church of 70, you could be a church of a couple thousand like Timberlake, and regardless of where that might be. One of the things I love that Pastor Shane had like broke down there was just the feeling that like it shouldn't be overwhelming to find community, even though they may be a little bit larger of a church. They have an opportunity for everyone to get connected.
Yeah. I love to, because he's intentional about things that seem unintentional.
Yeah.
They're intentional about, like, yes, we shouldn't have guilt. Yes, we shouldn't have shame or pressure.
Right.
That should be a no-brainer. But
remove that barrier.
Yeah, but they're intentional about making sure it's clear, things that most people should get, but really, when you make that part of your culture, like, no, we're going to call out the things that we think you should have, but that actually helps create this welcoming openness to it, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, there was a question that came in a little earlier, which we will spend some time breaking it down, but it has to deal with like how you're even facilitating that. We would call that a call to action or a CTA. And so got another poll question for you. How many CTAs or call to actions does your church do on Sunday? So let me launch this here in the chat for you. We're talking about CTAs, call to actions. Do you facilitate them on a Sunday morning?
A call to action could be, hey, if you're new here, will you raise your hand or fill out this card, or just an acknowledgement, a back and forth.
Yeah.
And whether we know it or not, there's usually so many, whether it's a giving moment, or a response to a message.
That's great. Yeah, the moment of generosity, that's a call to action. Welcoming people, maybe there's a connection card. That was one of the questions that came in earlier. What type of connection card might you be, wanting to see engagement from, is great. All right, hey, we've got 66% of participation. Come on, let's boost that number up just a little bit. How many CTAs are you guys facilitating at your organization on Sunday mornings or when you gather as a community? All right, creeping up to about 75 almost percent participation. And you know what, just for the sake of our time, we'll call it right there. Thank you guys. That's about 70% participation. I'm going to throw these results here on the screen for you. All right, so about 50%, more than half, Jason, have facilitating more than at least one call to action, which is great. 37%, maybe 2 to 4, and then just a little bit, maybe not doing that as much. And so, hopefully, as you're hearing Pastor Shane and other churches that are like-minded, or just organizations that are kind of doing this, you can see some best practices around that, which is really helpful. I'll just give you like a golden nugget real quick, just right off the top. If you were to attend our church, Jason, on Sunday morning, you're probably going to hear some kind of call to action no less than 4 times. Wow. One of them is a passive one, like Pastor Shane was already recommending. Maybe it's signage, maybe there's a video bumper on the slides, so one of them is already taken care of just by someone just being there on campus at the church. And then the rest of them, we will take some time to, kind of use our stage time for that to kind of, ask for those call to actions from our community directly. All right, just a little bit more here with our discussion with Pastor Shane. Let's learn about how they are doing call to actions at Timberlake.
And so, hey, maybe you want to learn about joining a missions trip or a volunteer team or getting in a small group, but like pick some things to get involved. And so that's a big one for us.
On this side, for someone who like does very similar leading at the church,
where I'm at, that's a big thing, right? Because John Maxwell says people are attracted to vision, they're attracted to joy, right? So when they see that, when they see other people that could probably be like new family to them, right? On teams, just finding their tribe is really important. I would love to break that down just one more layer. So in doing this, in having these options available for teams being grown and like healthy dynamics, comes with some type of call to action that is happening at the stage level or from a video bumper or something like that. Can you just invite us into that moment real quick at your church? Like, number one, how many like call to actions is Timberlake maybe wanting to facilitate on a Sunday morning, and maybe some of the strategies behind that and how that like comes to life there on a Sunday morning?
So some of it is passive. And so, like I said, the only call to action is, hey, there's a Connect card that you got when you came in, or a QR code in the seat in front of you. We would love to help you get more involved here, whatever that looks like. Just fill that out and we'll have somebody reach out to you. And so that's happening weekly. In terms of like a specific call to join a group or join a volunteer team or that, those are happening seasonally. So when group registrations are open, so again, we do semester based. So in January, most weeks, there was a call to, hey, if you're not in a group, this is a great way to meet some friends and grow in your faith. And so there's tons of different groups available, different days, different times, different topics. We'd love for you to check this out. If you need help finding a group, visit the groups booth, or if you're watching online, just type group in the chat and someone will connect with you on that.
That's
And
cool.
so that's going to happen in the month of group signups. Same thing with volunteers. Like in February, we do the big volunteer fair, and so we're going to push that. Throughout the year, if our teaching team is doing a message on engagement or volunteering or whatever, we'll do a specific call on there. We're never, for us and where we are at our size, we're not doing like a specific call to like, hey, we need more nursery workers. If you want to join the nursery, like let us know.
Yep.
It's more kind of an all call for the most part.
That's great. All right, let's go one more layer deeper, if you don't mind. So one of the great things about call to actions in general is how we can facilitate that maybe from a technology's perspective. And Timberlake has a great app that not only is visually appealing to the user, but also in ways where they can self-navigate themselves, maybe to something that they hear from stage, like from a call to action, whether that be something that, hey, that pastor's saying, hey, just call this out, or someone else on the leadership team call this out on stage, or I remember receiving an email about that or seeing it on social media. Can you talk us a little bit about like how maybe you strategize or plan on like having call to actions also available in people's hands with the use of your application?
Yeah, so we try to have just I always say like a lot of nets in the water, if like you're fishing. So the for us, anytime we're trying to get people engaged in anything, we want multiple ways for them to get engaged. Join a group, most people are going to sign up online. Like most people, they're going to do that through our app, through the website. They're going to do that. But we also are going to have a booth in the lobby. And so whether that's groups, whether that's giving, whether that's signing up for a camp or an event, everything is digital. And so we push our app primarily for that, just because it's easy, it's in their hands. We also use we'll use a text option where we'll send them a link. There's a QR code that sends them to that we use through the app as well. We'll do some push notifications for when we have signups for things going on. But most of what we do happens digitally.
Happens digitally. We were just checking to see if you guys were paying attention in that. Thank you guys for your patience.
Thank you for being very gracious in the chat too.
You would think that we're like a tech company.
Right?
Think
so.
Yeah. But some really great input of just ways of being intentional. The truth is there's call to action all throughout what we're doing, whether we know it or not. And the more that we're aware and intentional, we can actually put thought, prayer, strategy behind.
That's good.
How do we want this to look? What's it supposed to be like?
Yep.
The mission doesn't change, but the method changes depending on what what you're trying to accomplish, which is so beautiful.
Well, last but not least, we wanted to ask Pastor Shane to kind of just put a bow on, what would some advice be out for some of you joining in today? Yeah, he knew that we were getting this ready for the webinar, and just kind of maybe pick his brain a little bit about just, peer-to-peer, right? Seeking some advice, especially for us. So, Jason and I work at church outside of here as well. So we were kind of just asking maybe a little bit for ourselves too, of just like, hey, what kind of some golden wisdom or golden nugget can you leave us with?
Man, that's such a great discussion. First of all, thank you so much for taking time to lean in with us today. I know not only did we find that this conversation was very fruitful, but we know that those that are going to be participating in this discussion as well can hopefully take some great pointers, great, golden nuggets to kind of sit on and rest on and maybe discuss as a team. In that being said, any last parting words of wisdoms to, another XP out there, another maybe plant church pastor, that's wearing all the hats, right? So the spectrum is wide, right? From XP at a seasoned, very mature church to a church planner. What are some just last words of wisdoms that maybe you can help bestow onto us and them, as far as, you hit great things about culture, great things about just how you're facilitating call to actions, but maybe some things to kind of new lenses to look through and keep in perspective as they are embarking on building better engagement strategies for their organizations as well.
I would say that I think the most important thing is that you just focus on trajectory and make sure that you are having fun along the way. I think sometimes we can put so much pressure on ourselves and look at these churches that are, no matter what stage your church is at, there is a church that's ahead of you, that's further along. And it can just be really discouraging sometimes when we just get in this comparison of, I don't have as many volunteers or as much money or as many resources or as big of a team or whatever. And people are going to want to be a part of that. And you're going to put a lot of the pressure off of yourself to just say okay, I'm doing a great job. I don't have anything to prove. I don't have anyone to impress. I'm just going to serve God, be faithful for what he has done. I'm going to have fun doing it. And people are going to want to be a part of that. And so focus on trajectory, not where you're at. Just am I moving in the right direction? Am I a little bit better this month than we were last month at engagement? And is there things that I can move towards and have fun along the way? And that just ensures that you can do it for the long haul. And my goal is that when I get to the end, that I can look back and say I had fun with the people that I got to do ministry with and for, and I did some good things and I did some good work, and I can be proud of that. And so I just say take the pressure off yourself, focus on where you're headed, and enjoy the season that you are in and where you're going.
I know we said this, but even here in Seattle, just the fact to stay the course is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's not the flash or the big, it's just actually just the steady eddies that just stay the course, keep following Jesus. And I love it. I was just even thinking about a number of different churches that have all come from, or pastors and people that have come from Timberlake, and you're that's great fruit. Fruit that remains and fruit that multiplies and fruit that goes out. And so we so respect and admire you all, and thank you, not only just for what you do, but just for being an incredible man, an incredible husband. And so thank you, man.
Appreciate that. Cool. All
right.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Man, that's great. Pastor Shane is a remarkable man, and just we're grateful just to have that conversation. But more than that, realizing that all of these strategies are about seeing people changed, getting them connected with each other and getting them connected with Jesus. And that's the beautiful part of strategies are only meant to facilitate people. It's not the people for the process. The process are for people. And so at the end of the day, we hope that however it looks for you, that just the stories of people being changed, the people being connected, the people living and seeing life more fulfilled is just better. So that's what a beautiful way of setting that up. We got lots of great questions in the Q&A, but before we jump into a few of them, we want to take a few minutes and just really dive in and give some possible solutions or some different ways to use Pushpay software. But if you're not aware, here are some features coming up. One of the things I'm really excited about, I know one of the questions was, what are ways to engage a younger generation or younger demographic? And one of the things we're seeing this around generosity is actually the way that people give. And so we have not only released Apple Pay, but we're releasing a few new features even within Apple Pay. Apple Pay recurring.
That's going to be huge.
That's going to be really big, just to set it and forget it.
Yep.
But the other part is Apple Quick Pay. And this is literally when someone goes to give for that first time, they're just double clicking and it takes less than 5 seconds to set up that first gift.
Yeah.
Life Church has done this. There's not really, I don't think any other software companies doing this yet. I think we're going to be one of the first.
Yeah.
But they saw 42% increase in brand new younger generation of people starting to give just by using that technology. So that will be coming up here pretty soon. So we're pretty excited to see that released.
Another great one is going to be around just ministry scheduling. So there's a feature within our Pushpay CHMS that has us opportunity for you to have schedules and plans. There'll be some new enhancements to the Pushpay CHMS, as well as admin calendar. That's going to be a great feature for those of you maybe on the back end, kind of looking through some things as well.
Yeah.
And then specifically for engagement, things on mail merge, right? And scheduling those and being able to like enhance some of that rollout of how you're doing some of your touch points via email. So if you want more information about releases as we release them out, you can scan this QR code or go to this website, pushpay.com/product-releases. As we bring them to market for you guys and to use, they will be uploaded here on this site. So everything that we're kind of showcasing for today and things that are in our pipeline will soon be on these pages as well with some resources for you. All right, without further ado, let's spend the last few moments of our time today answering a few questions. Thank you guys so much for leaning in, the questions that you were able to ask today. If we can't get through all of them today, we will be connecting with you outside of today's session. So be on the lookout for maybe an email from me personally answering these questions on your behalf. All right, first question here for you, Jason, here. It came from an anonymous sender, but first of all, they were saying, hey, we love this idea about tracking metrics.
Yeah.
What dashboards do you use to track those numbers? And they would love to see that, at their facility and their church. And maybe is there a better solution for some of those things?
It's a great question. And if you haven't dove into insights, that really is the whole bread and butter. What we're trying to do is actually realize within CHMS, or as he called it, I think somebody asked what system is he using. He said CCB, which is Church Community Builder, which now is part of Pushpay.
It's in the family.
Yep, it's all part of the family now. So if you're using CHMS or CCB, we also have Insights, which brings all of that together in one place. And we actually are breaking that into even some more specific dashboards where you can see household involvement and giving and be able to see, customize some of that dashboard in one place. But healthy metrics is all about how healthy the data you're putting in. And I know that somebody had put in here, I think it was Laura, had put in there just changing software and trying to do something. I would just say that software is really meant to help people. And it's not something to go with slowly or quickly, too quick, especially depending on the size of your organization, but to really think through, what do we consider health? What do we consider to be a really good source of tracking? And if we can do that, can we break that all the way down to the group, to this specific segment? And what's a way that we can track that, follow that along the way? So within, whether you're using forms or if you're using our app, there's a draggable. Your groups can go in there. You can actually check in right from the app. You can engage with people from your app, and that all connects with your CHMS. And ultimately, we want to see that in one beautiful view in a dashboard.
Yeah.
Through Insights.
Real quick, just to follow up, there was a question that just kind of came in while we were answering that, and that is, what information is that grabbing it from? It's actually grabbing it from multiple different parts of your tooling, your software. So from Pushpay Giving, from the Pushpay CHMS. There's a new dashboard called Insights. Another question towards that was, do they have to subscribe? Can you just let the chat know how to get Insights enabled? What's needed for that in order to have that be part of their login?
Yeah, if you are a full, what we call a stack customer, you have access to Insights. And if you don't know where to go, usually if you can go and switch between your Pushpay and CHMS, it might be there. If you don't have access yet, reach out to customer support or your CSM, your customer support manager, and we can get you set up for that.
Reach out to support or your CSM. You also need to be advanced or complete in order for that to be enabled as well. All right, here, let's go and answer just a couple of more questions here. There was another question that came in about, Martha says, hey, we use paper connection cards as well as online connection cards, which are a form in CCB. We find poor engagement with online cards because of having to fill out each week. Suggestions on how we can questions on how we can better have engagement with online cards. That's a great question there, Martha. My biggest advice for you on that is, number one, just kind of like where Pastor Shane was kind of leading in with some of that, just staying very consistent and constant with your messaging, especially on stage. When you have a call to action, dare I say it this way, don't be afraid to maybe make some of that stuff exclusive to that particular touch point where you're needing a little bit more help to see some of those metrics, kind of boost it up. And then, of course, by seeing others take part of that will also be very helpful. So if you're asking for them to scan the QR code on the seat back in front of them or something like that, or pull out the app, if they see others in the church community pulling out their app, scanning the QR code to kind of start engaging with those forms, that will hopefully help promote them to do that as well. So being able to invite others into that process is extremely, extremely important. Let's do a couple of more here. We're going to probably just go just a little bit over our time. If you want to hang out with us, we'll just answer just a couple of more questions here for you. All right. Let's see. Yeah, can we go to this one from James here? And because we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but just having that congregation maybe a little bit smaller, 70, right? Like how can they find some of these wins for engagement at a church their size? Maybe not as big as Timberlake per se, but just still needing best practices around that.
Yeah, I do think maybe some of what we're talking about might be once we start getting into building teams and different groups of people, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like 70 people, there will be some kids, so you're going to have some families. So you have to begin to create a culture of what does it look like to serve our kids?
Yeah.
What does it look like if we're taking communion together? And making a place for whatever people, really stirring up people's gifts and realizing like, hey, what we're doing now is actually setting things up for the future. And being aware of you're creating a culture whether you know it or not. It's either going to be intentional or it's just going to evolve and happen. And so these are times to actually think about it, think through, understand, be aware of it, and realize that you are setting things up for your 700, for whatever it is that God has in front of you. So be aware of it, think about it, set a plan in place, even if it's just small. That seed grows.
That's so good. I'm going to take a few more of these questions offline. So Peter, I see you. Gretchen, I see you with your question as well. Tanya, I see your question also. I will, and Laura as well. I'll send you some follow-ups here, and I can also connect with your CSM here on this side as well, so we can kind of help answer that for you offline. So we will get these resources out to you, get your questions answered offline. I want to thank you for joining us. I know we had a little bit of some technical fun moments today. Again, brand new studio, so thank you for leaning in with us. Guys, have a great rest of your day. We're going to do another one like this in this next quarter with even more updates as well to share. So guys, have a great week. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one.